Well, we've had a great morning so far, and we're going to keep it going. Up next, we have three wonderful speakers that are going to explore how immersive storytelling can deepen human understanding of critical issues. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Nenea Reeves, CEO and co-founder of TRIP, John Riccatello, CEO of Unity, and Ashlan Cousteau, author, explorer, and ocean activist, and journalist. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So, hi everyone, I'm Nenea Reeves. I'm CEO of TRIP, which is Pioneering XR Wellness. And I'm on stage with Ashlan Cousteau. She is an environmental journalist, best known for her work with E! News, Discovery Channel, and Travel Channel. And also on stage with us is John Riccatello, CEO of Unity, the platform that many of us, including TRIP, have built our XR applications on. I think I saw in the notes 80% of HMD apps are built on Unity.
We love it that way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I just, full transparency, John was my former boss. I'm a little nervous. I feel like I did when I asked you for a raise and a promotion, so.
We can go through performance appraisals later. But,
thank you.
Here we are now.
Here we are. So let's jump right in. Yep. Ashlan, you created a very powerful XR experience called A Drop in the Ocean. And can you tell us what your goals were with that and the impact that it had, and also the approach to how you used immersive storytelling?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, I feel like we got a level set, right? The ocean is so vital and important, but it often gets overlooked. So the reason we should all love our ocean is it provides over 50% of the oxygen on our planet. It feeds billions of people around the world. It absorbs a lot of excess carbon that we're emitting, and it controls our climate and our weather. So if you like to eat, drink, breathe, thank the ocean. But as I'm sure you all know, there are these huge issues that our ocean is facing. So there's overfishing. 90% of our fish stocks globally are either fished to capacity or they're overfished, right? We all know that there's a lot of excess carbon floating around, and that's leading to an increase in temperature in our ocean, increasing our ocean acidification. We all hear about plastic pollution, but we also have to think about the chemical pollution and the urban runoff that's going in there. So let me pause there because wah, wah, Debbie Downer, right? So what we wanted to do with Drop in the Ocean and what we set out to do was take people back into being inspired, to seeing the awe of our ocean and the creatures that live in it. So what we did at Drop in the Ocean, thanks to Unity, which is pretty much how we built the entire thing, we teamed up also with Conservation International and our incredible visionary team at Vision 3. We shrink you down to the size of about a human thumb, and we let you float around in the ocean, and you get to meet a turtle, you get to meet a whale shark, you get to see some dope copepods, and of course, we talk about trash and pollution, but we, as I like to say, we hide the peas in the pudding because we don't want to just hit you over the head with all the bad stuff. We wanted to show you this incredible microscopic world that we wouldn't be able to see with our naked eye, but that exists. And that is the beauty of XR, right? Is to either create a completely different world or to show something that is real, but we wouldn't be able to see as big, giant land dwellers. We wouldn't be able to meet these incredible, incredible phytoplankton, which thank them for all the oxygen. And for those of you that want to see more, Drop in the Ocean is being set up right now in the exhibition hall. That being said, I love nonprofits, and I sit on the board of 3. I help my husband with his, Earth Echo, which is a leading ocean education and youth leadership nonprofit. But nonprofits alone are not enough. They've been around for 60 years, and I would say we're actually in a worse spot now than we were 60 years ago. So we need to think about, obviously, political will, political movement, but I truly believe that businesses making saving the world profitable is how we're actually going to change the world. So I implore you all, when we think of using this for good, don't think of it as, oh, it's good and it's free. No, 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 no. Think of it as, I'm going to change the world, and I'm going to make a lot of money while I do it. Because saving the world's expensive.
Well, I will raise my hand for that mission. That's what we started off with, Trip. But, I mean, really, we have to have a reality check on the state of the industry. To date, I mean, you know, we've done well as a subscription service, but primarily on one device. And that has been successful, the Meta Quest device. And how do we have real impact with these missions to use technology for good, deepening human understanding, connection to self, all the goals that we have, and I know other developers in this space and in this room have, when the market's still going to be small? So, you know, John, you have, I think, the best vantage point of anyone I know in our industry on where we honestly are at, and do we have the potential to really grow businesses at scale in XR?
So thanks, Nene. And by the way, congratulations on you know, what you've created. It does make a difference. And I love the ocean. It's tried to drown me a few times. But, you know, putting that aside, I understand its life-giving power. So congratulations and thank you for what you're doing. So when I think about XR, I think about, you know, my first deep experience with XR. I was, you know, very early involved in, with Brendan and the team, you know, Palmer at Oculus, and I loved their vision, and I went through my fair share of headaches learning about their vision because, you know, the early implementation was hard. And it wasn't that much longer that I started giving presentations around, you know, very public forums around the fact that XR is amazing, or back then mostly VR was amazing, but I didn't think there was a business there. If you want to find what's out there, I gave many presentations called The Gap of Disappointment, which was about, while we all want to believe it's way up here, it's really way down here, and it's very hard to build a business. And I think that was a truth. It was a truth in a different day than today. The other thing I think about when I think of XR is there's a power of interacting with content that's on your TV 15 feet from you. There's more power, you know, interacting with your mobile device right here. It has more influence over you. This stuff's in your head. And so, you know, I make a really strong argument that, and I'll keep it really short, it's just as powerful, if not more powerful than it ever was. And now is actually a really good time to build a business in XR. The problems I saw 5, 6, and 7 years ago that didn't seem solvable in that time, I think are rapidly becoming solvable. And if the consoles created, you know, 20, 30, 40, $50 billion market cap companies, I think XR will do the same, you know, as we look forward into the next decade. So I now cancel what I said 6, 7 years ago about not a good time to build a business in this space, a good time to have a hobby in this space. I think it's actually a good time to have a business in this space.
Well, so there's a little bit of hope there then.
Yes, I think there is. And please use Unity if you do decide to make it.
Do you think the timing is will we see a shift in the next 24 months, within the next 24 months?
You know, I'm never good at Nostradamus, you know, sort of predictions. But here's what I would tell you. When I was being critical some years ago, let me tell you why. You know, one of the issues was that the stuff just didn't work, right? You didn't plug it in, and it wasn't easy. If you were a serious hobbyist and you're willing to, you know, work on it for a while, you could get it to work. But then if you know, a number of the applications didn't really understand 3D geometry and interocular distances and other things, and you know, I would end up, you know, I can remember after a particular console launch of a XR device, I can remember trying things for 2 and 3 hours at the event because they wanted me to try all the stuff. probably the only day I've missed, sick day I've missed in 25 years. I had such an ice cream frozen dizzy headache. So those technical problems are largely solved. The second issue that I felt was problematic is there really wasn't a promise for a large enough installed base and an economic model for content creators to make something that would ultimately be profitable. And if a creator can't ultimately be profitable, now there are some that will do things out of pure love, and I applaud them, I bow to them. I thought that's what you were doing with Trip when you first started.
So, yeah. I told you.
And and honestly, it's incredible. That you've lasted to the point that it can be commercial is even more incredible.
Thank you so much.
But the point I would make now is I put up a number of hurdles that said these are the problems and they're not solved in the present day. So despite the fact that XR or VR hardware won CES 2 years in a row, that wasn't the promise of opportunity. That didn't actually stop VCs from throwing a whole bunch of money and a couple companies getting billion-dollar market caps before they got million-dollar market caps, and then aspired to million-dollar market caps in that order. So that was a painful time.
Yep.
I think now is probably the same as game companies looking at the first consoles and starting to create their Grand Theft Autos, starting to create their Maddens and FIFAs, starting to create the intellectual properties. And I don't think it's just gaming, it could be storytelling too. But I think we're at a time right now where it makes a whole lot of sense to look forward with optimism around XR.
So you think, though, it is more a console type of market as opposed to a mobile market? Can XR get as big as mobile?
Well, if we're saying this decade, I'd say no.
Okay.
So, and anybody that's trying to predict anything beyond the decade needs to write fiction. And occasionally they're right, as we've learned with things,
Neil Stephenson, for sure.
I mean, Gene Roddenberry had almost everything right, and George Lucas had a lot right, but I wouldn't build a business plan around either of them. But look, there's approximately 200 million people in the world that engage in console entertainment writ large. Last generation still active, current generation of hardware out there. And let's be clear, companies like, an Activision, Take-Two, Electronic Arts, you can pick some, Square, NetEase. These companies have an aggregate market cap of $300 billion, just the ones I've listed, and 250 maybe today in the down market. But, and they're primarily building first intellectual property. Now, of course, they have King and Candy Crush too at Activision, and they all have their bits. But that's really worthy. Now, mobile penetration is north of 4 billion. On Unity's network alone, we track well north of 3 billion every single month. 3 billion people playing, I like to say this, Unity-built applications in mobile every month. It's a staggering number. It counts to the hundreds of millions at like any day part you want. That is a level of engagement you can't get in consoles. There isn't as many of them out there. Having said that, the success in business on console is undeniable. And it is big. And now, there could be a day where various versions of XR get us to mobile, sort of scale. But that's not how I would see it over the course of the next handful of years.
That makes sense. And you've seen so much content out there, and we're at such an interesting point in technology and the evolution of it with AI combined with XR. Going back to A Drop in the Ocean and the power of XR and VR specifically to create empathy. I loved the feeling of seeing the ocean through the lens of a creature in the sea, but also sometimes I feel very hit over the head with the message that a lot of VR creators, approach their work with, that I don't want to go back into it again. And so one of the things that, there's a few things that come up, like, how do we do it differently? Now that we've sort of experimented and simulated and and now we're starting to stimulate, as it is with Trip. What's the next evolution of storytelling? And what do we need to be concerned about as we implement AI into these environments and into the tech? You mentioned it's close to the head, John, the cognitive impact, the neurological impact, the emotional impact is something that needs to be treated with great care. So I'm just wondering, what have you seen that has worked out there and what's not working?
Well, before I get to that, I think you were about to get into what you've experienced in terms of what worked with your storytelling. And if I'll build on that if that's all right.
Yeah, so I think what's important to remember is a lot of people think of storytelling as just the words that are said, right? Or the story arc that you're going to follow. But it's to me, storytelling is the whole package. It's the world that you're building. It's the emotions that you are creating. And you all in this audience are building these worlds every single day. And that is so freaking exciting, by the way. And for me, and I think for all of us, doom and gloom is a short-term motivator, right? You see the picture of the sea turtle with a straw up its nose, you write a check and you move on to the next thing. What we need to do is we need to be thinking about hope, and we need to be inspiring people. We need to show people what a future can look like. Because number one, y'all can build it. But number two, we need to really be able to build a story, build a world that shows what it can be like. We need to stop writing the obituary for the ocean and the obituary for our natural world, and we need to show people what can be. Because as my grandfather-in-law, Jacques Cousteau, would say, people understand what they know, and people save, or people love what they understand, and they protect what they love. And so we need to keep that in mind. And again, I think it's just this, think of the worlds that you're building. They're tangible. You can touch them. You have these emotional connections, and just think of hope and inspiration. And everybody really relates to that. No matter where you live, no matter what your age, that gets you excited.
Well, but specifically, you highlighted in our prep call that young people have, the environmental concerns are actually a mental health crisis for them.
Yeah, climate anxiety is a thing. And it's not just for young people. I get it every day. I have two very small children, and every day I wake up and I'm like, fuck. But I keep going, right?
Nice. Was that the first F-bomb on the stage here? I love that.
Sorry. Oops. Sorry, Mom.
It's okay. I'm glad it was you.
It's like you have to think of hope, because that's what keeps us going. Otherwise, we're going to curl up in a ball under our covers, and that's not helping anybody. So yes, this is another way, and like you're doing with Trip, we can use these worlds to help people overcome their fears and their anxieties.
I want to create more sea content, so something to follow up on for sure. So John, you've done so much at Unity with you've doubled down on creating these programs for education, social impact, sustainability programs. How do creators work with Unity to get their projects supported, besides using the platform?
Well, first off, I'm blinded by the light, but somewhere out there is Jessica Lindell, who runs our social impact team and edu team. And so far, she's led donations and gifts of over $8 million to people doing social impact work. And
Drop in the Ocean was one of them. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
That number keeps going up. And so there's always an opportunity there. But let me take the moment to just sort of address something. I'm a tech guy and a business guy, and I love games. I'm awed by the vision that both of these people have, that to change the world in a positive way, mental health in Nanea's case with Trip, and what you're doing to protect the oceans. Now, I can see no one out there. The lights are bright. But my guess is there's two types of you out there. There's people that have a story to tell. Whether it's a social story or not, you have a story to tell. You have a message you want to get across. You have a game in mind. And the other side here is there's probably some out there that are deeply technical. You know how to build these things. You know how to use Unity. You know how to you can program, or you understand technology well enough that you're trying to figure out how to fit that story into a box, whether that box is a mobile device from Apple or Google, or it's a console or a PC. Let me just be really clear. You're at the best time ever, right now. Great companies are born in technology transitions. Insane new things come about in these technology transitions. And that's right where we are. And if you look for pattern recognition that I would offer you at this moment in time, the world of XR is the promise of everything new. But don't toss out everything we've learned. So a good story still matters. And in XR, because you've got a controller in your hand, or your hands are a controller, or however that's going to work, you've got your various knobs and buttons, you're consuming a story while you're in control. And there really isn't a hardware platform out there that does that as well as XR. And so my sense is you're so close to inside the minds of these people that you will create things. There will be these companies where they've blended the technical brain with the storytelling heart. Whether it's gaming or non-gaming or pure linear, you are going to change the world, and you're going to birth some amazing companies. And again, it's come back to the fact that I think the technology gives promise to do something that's never been done before. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. We can talk about how AI may enable even more things that have never been done before. But my sense is it's a good time to be thinking about, what part do I take of the experiences that I've enjoyed so far, and how do we change them in a way that is vastly more compelling in this new medium? Now is the time for that question.
Have you seen recently anyone doing that really well?
I
know it's hard for you to...
I try not to...
Pick a favorite child.
No. I mean, look, honestly, it's been at least a month since I've used your product, and congratulations on how amazing it's getting to be.
Thank you. You were one of the first people I shared it with, and I think your team told me it was the quietest they've ever seen you.
But what I learned from that, just for what it's worth, look, I am the last person. Everyone probably tells me I should go to therapy, but I'm the last person to imagine myself wanting or needing that. And the calm and satisfaction I got out of the products you build is amazing. So that's a great example. But I think, honestly, now I would be thinking about the fact that you've got intimacy.
Yep.
It's in your head, agency, and power. And when you've got intimacy, agency, and power, you've got a formula that no console, no mobile device, no PC can deliver. Those are unlocks. And those unlocks speak to a different set of opportunities than we've experienced up until now.
Right.
And I don't think, I think, let me see, the first round of mobile games, what were they, like mini console games with a download price of $4.99? It didn't go anywhere until people figured out a compulsion loop, a funnel. Now, that's the business side, but they figured those things out. But then they packaged, eventually, amazing, amazing content into a new way of doing business. We have not yet defined the new way of doing business in a world that is got agency, intimacy, and power at the same time. And I think you will, and we need to, I could get into individual things that we could observe, but I think that's where to go.
There's certain elements, like what we're going to do at Trip for the next phase of our product is go back to what we learned in the games industry, is really work on the journey and the progression of the user as they approach their well-being. And a lot of healthcare apps, they gamify wellness. I call it lamification. Your resiliency score doesn't really motivate a person. It's really the journey, the storytelling, the narrative, and the beauty of incorporating AI is that path may not be the same for you, Ashlan, as it is for John. And one of the things I'm most proud of at Trip is our audience is 57% male. And most of the VCs who invested in us just assumed women would be the only users of it, and they were very surprised by the impact of it. So I do think we're at this turning point, not only with our own company, but as an industry where we're expanding the way we think about how to develop these experiences beyond just simulations, scaring the pants off of you, or even beating you over the head to build empathy by making you feel bad. And I'm excited about that, and especially now, to hear that, we really are at the point where we can make real businesses.
Yeah, and I think too, thinking outside of the box, right? There's another project that I'm a part of called Hidden Worlds, and it's an immersive dining experience, right? So you go and you're immersed into an underwater world where you're dining in a mangrove, and it's a restorative ocean menu, right? Which means everything that you're eating is actually restoring the ocean, not just sustaining it.
Oh, wow.
Sustainability, by the way, is a mediocre goal, everybody. Don't talk about sustainability anymore. Try to really think about restoration. Anywho, that's my one soapbox for the day. But so we map, right? We map projection mapping over top of your plate, so your plate literally comes alive. And it's so exciting. And again, it's a business model to get out there. But again, let's look at zoos differently. Let's look at aquariums differently. Like, let's make sure that we're using this technology not just attached to a console, but in people's everyday life. And that's really, which I know John would be very excited if we all had it connected to it all the time. And again, build that better world that we're looking for.
Well, thank you so much for the conversation. It's been very meaningful, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.